True crimers, welcome to Break the Case. Listen, as promised, I wanted to come forward regarding the Brian Thompson murder and specifically talk about what happened. I can't show the video. I feel uncomfortable doing that just because it's YouTube. I don't want to get canceled or anything. They have very tight rules. But I definitely wanted to come on now that we have more information and give you the rundown. I feel like I have it pretty much ironclad as to what happened from a firearms standpoint. Just a teeny bit of background. 1994, I was honored to become an FBI firearms instructor. I was a firearms instructor for how many years is that? Oh my gosh, I retired in 2016. Then after I retired, I started Firearms Beyond International, where I instructed uh, uh, local civilians. Also, a lot of law enforcement came through my class. So instructed on all those fronts and became a Texas licensed to carry instructor as well, receiving more training. But the Bureau gave me enough training as it was. Anyway, that's the lens that I come from today to discuss the firearms. In addition, I was on the San Juan SWAT team, the Houston SWAT team, and the Dallas SWAT team. From a tactical standpoint. Obviously, as an FBI agent, your primary responsibilities are investigations and your cases. These are all side gigs that you do that contribute, I guess, to your experience as an FBI agent. All right, moving along. It is clear, first of all, that this individual who committed this crime, this murder, was laying in wait. He was clad in dark clothing, hoodie, including something covering about this region of his face, but certainly able to see well and see his target. He had a very large backpack that was extremely unique. I think that's going to be helpful in finding him. He used an e-bike that's going to be traceable. I know they're working on that. They're going to be finding him, but I want to talk specifically about, was this a professional hit? What really happened here? First of all, let's go through the imaginations of the shooting itself. How did he know he was there at that time? There were some reports early on that people saw him there all night. That was debunked by the police department in their statement. They specifically said he was there for a few moments. So he knew exactly when he was going to be in that area. That just tells me there likely could be somebody on the inside, somebody that knew when he would be leaving, where he would be. Obviously, he was staying at another hotel and going over to the Hilton. So that wouldn't be too hard to figure out. But just the fact he was in the other hotel, not in the Hilton. I'm sure many of the people, because they were going to this conference, I'm at a conference right now. I'm at the hotel where the conference is at. So in any event, I think there's somebody else involved in this situation, not just this individual, unless he is an insider in that respect. When he comes from behind cover, so he has some cover, as we call it, with this vehicle that's in front of him. I think that was just to keep a low profile that he was staged there. That's where I would have staged. He didn't conduct this exactly in broad daylight, early morning hours, but certainly, as you can see from the film, it was pretty dusk. Yes, there were people around. It's difficult to do a hit or a murder like this and just have no one around, especially if you're going to get them in a public environment, unless you go into their home. So it makes sense. He picked a time with very few people around. When he comes out, he presents with a weapon that has a silencer. That's what I believe. I believe there's a silencer on that, whether it's a homemade silencer, whether it's a purchased silencer, whether it is a silencer that's been manufactured, but then a hole put in the end of it. There are items you can buy like this that are very interesting. I need to post one on my Twitter to show people what I'm talking about. But no matter, it was a silencer with baffles. That was done for very specific reason, I believe. And that was, of course, to cut down the gunshot sound so that fewer people would be alerted that would have possibly been in the area, but maybe not directly with him. So he didn't want to draw attention to himself. Now, when he fires, and I've now watched this film over and over, I probably 100 times last night, many, many times. And in addition, because I'm at an expert conference, I, of course, consulted with some other firearms experts that are amazing. They've spent 40, 50 years in this business. So what I believed happened is that he shoots, and he well knows this weapon is going to jam. Or it's not that it jams. That's the wrong verbiage. I'm so sorry. That it's not going to eject a round. That's not going to cycle around. Let me get the verbiage right. He knows after the extraction and ejection of the casing that it's the gun normally cycles back and puts in another bullet from the magazine into the chamber to be refired. That's not happening here. Why? Looked at all the possibilities. Subsonic rounds. Well, now we know because we have the footage, and I'll show you a huge blow up of the picture here. Can you see that casing and the bullet there? It's not a subsonic round. So we know he had a normal full metal jacket round, not a halopoint, but a full metal jacket round. So what this tells me is, first of all, that he well knew when he pulled that trigger that it was not going to fire, or that it was not going to cycle after he fired. Why do I say that? Because he immediately fires and then goes to rack the slide. Round 2 that he shoots immediately goes to rack the slide. Round 3 immediately goes to rack the slide. I believe he was well practiced and well versed with this particular gun, and he knew that that was just going to be something he had to give up. It was better to have the silencer than not to have the racking capability. A lot of people have said, oh, his gun was dirty. Now, listen, I agree with that. When you're on the range, I can't tell you how many people I've instructed. They come to the range and their gun's a hot mess, dirty, hasn't been cleaned forever. There's dust bunnies. I've even seen staples and various things because a lot of women keep their guns in their purses. Men keep their guns in the briefcases, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, I don't think that was the case here. I think it strictly had to do with the fact that he had the silencer on that, and that reduced the energy necessary for the slide to work properly and eject the casing, followed by putting I'm going to explain this easily, from the magazine that's inserted into the magazine well, bringing up that round into the chamber for the firing pin to strike and for the next bullet to be shot. He had to rack the slide to do that. And he knew it. He absolutely knew it. He comes up, he shoots, he's on the ready to do it. This was no surprise. Now, after he shoots the 3 rounds, you'll see him kind of crouch a little bit. It is clear as he's approaching and walking up to Brian Thompson. It's clear these are jams. He's messing around. He's trying to get that round in. And we also know that because law enforcement has said now that there were 3 casings. So now we know he shot 3 times where the bullet left the casing, the brass casing behind, which was ejected onto the ground. So we know there's 3, assuming they found them all. A lot of people have conjectured that when he shot, that he caught the rounds. I don't think that was it. I think what people are seeing is him going up to rack the slide. All right. We also know there were 3 live rounds. What does that tell me? That tells me he had to do, if you will, the tap rack bang drill. That's what we called it back in the old days. But basically where you have to clear that round out. So I believe wholeheartedly that he had real malfunctions. The first 3, he knew he was going to have to rack the slide to get a bullet in there. But after the first 3, that's a malfunction. And I think that's why we see those rounds being ejected. Now, it's interesting that why did that happen? Why did he have successful, racking of the slide the first 3 times, and then after that he didn't? Could be a number of reasons, but I think most likely watching him, this is when you don't forcefully enough pull back on that slide and handle the weapon firmly enough. Some people call it limp wristing. The other thing he could have done, although I couldn't exactly see whether he's doing this, was riding the slide. Sometimes as you rack, people will ride that slide forward. It needs to break forward quickly to be able to put a bullet from the magazine into the chamber. So essentially, he shoots knowing that how this gun would function with the silencer on. Now, was this a professional hit? Let's do the pros and cons in that. First of all, let's do the cons. The cons are that he was unable to find a slide and a weapon to work in harmony together, to not have this issue arise that he was going to have to rack the slide after he shot. Okay, there's one. For me, the biggest reason that this wasn't, and I don't want to say it wasn't a professional hit. As I've said before, in working gangs, when you see mafia cases, they don't necessarily, they're not marksmen, they're not sharpshooters. They have not trained for years, for decades, day after day, week after week, hours after hours, 8-hour days, like somebody say that's an FBI sharpshooter and marksman would train, where you can hit from 60 yards a plate with a handgun, where you can shoot things on the move, where you can repeatedly shoot from 25 yards with a double action gun, even a heavy round, 45, 10 millimeter, and hit a very small circumference. This is not that guy. Why do I say that? He misfires. We know now from police that Brian Thompson was hit in the calf and he was hit in the back. What happened to the other rounds he shot? We know there was a 3rd casing, so he misses there. This tells me he's not a marksman. Anybody from this distance, this is such a short distance. And even though he's not walking left to right, which is much more difficult. He's walking like this. Now, as he sets up and shoots, grip looks great. Stance looks pretty good. I mean, this is, considering a high stress situation, but he misses his mark. So this isn't somebody, this is somebody that's very well versed in this gun and well versed for the most part with shooting, but he is not a professional marksman of any way, shape, or form, or he absolutely panicked in this situation, and he doesn't look like he panicked. The things that are on the side of him being professional, if you will, and again, when we say professional, to me, that just means, was he paid to do this? Could he have been paid by somebody? That's what professional means. Are you paid to do a job? He might have been paid to do a job, but that doesn't mean that this is his life's work. Could he have been paid? I look back at cases like the case in Houston, where the woman hired a friend of her new boyfriend to then conduct the hit. That was a really sloppy one, but nevertheless, this type of thing could happen. I am in no way saying that Thompson's wife was involved in this. I'm just saying that people hire people, and you never know exactly what you're going to get. It's not like the Pelican Brief. These, hitmen aren't just running around for hire, that are very extremely well trained. but he did a lot of things right. His coverage, I think, was good. Why didn't he wear gloves? I have a couple thoughts on that. Um, Obviously, at least when he left on the bike and so forth, you would hope he would have donned gloves. But I can tell you, when you are manipulating, even if you have the tightest, thinnest gloves, Nomex gloves, you lose that feel, and you risk any of that fabric getting caught, especially if you knew he was going to have to rack the slide. In addition, you lose that beautiful feeling of trigger control unless you cut off the finger. I always cut the finger on my index finger. We always shot with gloves. Again, another reason why I think he trained for this mission, but I think he calculated what he had to do and what was necessary enough to get this job done. And note, he got the job done. He got in and out without being arrested. He was able to secure a way to escape that he had on the ready. He picked an easy bike or an e-bike, which tells me, that wasn't too smart from the standpoint of it being traceable. They're having a GPS system in there. So he didn't do his homework on that. That doesn't look that good for this being a professional hit. When I say professional, somebody who is a trained professional type marksman grade shooter. So that's an issue. But he got away. Remember, police he has such a huge head start in this New York Metroplex. So they're going to catch up, but it's going to take a while. He could already be on a plane out of there for all we know. We had this big backpack. What was in that backpack? It's funny because I think, or not funny, it's interesting. That backpack could be what does him in, because there's only going to be so many, and it's going to be traced to purchases that were made. The law enforcement is going to look at all of that. So who would have bought that backpack? But did he buy it a long time ago? How far back is law enforcement going to have to go? It's going to be really, really tedious. But they're going to be poring over that, likely asking for the help of the FBI analysts. I could see them asking for police cooperation, although a huge department like NYPD has everything pretty much covered. But in a case like this, they might seek some help, some of the bureau's help. Also, there's going to be digital information. Apparently, a phone was left behind. Why? Was that purposeful? Did he ditch a phone? That's never smart. That's another reason why. How professional was this professional? I don't know. You don't leave a phone behind, even if it's a phone you believe is not traceable to you. They can be traced. And it's very problematic for him to leave any evidence behind. I believe in that backpack, he had the proper attire to look completely different at the point that he decided to change and likely ditch everything he had on, and of course ditch that murder weapon. We'll see. I mean, NYPD is all over this, and I have a lot of faith that this case will be solved. It comes down to motive. I said before, law enforcement always starts with the inner circle. Who in his inner circle might be upset with him, who might have that motive, and then they're going to move out. Could it be a disgruntled person that didn't get insurance? Could it be someone to do with this insider trading? I mean, we know that in 2023, there was a case opened up against the executives at United Healthcare. They're one of the biggest healthcare providers in this nation. I have United Healthcare. I can tell you that it's huge within government entities. I was talking to some of the other, the other colleagues and at this conference, and they said, yeah, we have United Healthcare. It's a huge government. So in any event, we don't know yet, but they're going to start small, because in most of these cases, not all, there's outliers, but in most, it starts small. It starts with that person that is upset, that has that motive, that's angry. And then you start working out once you eliminate all the people within the inner circle. So having said that, I want to look and see if there's any questions about the firearms. I'm very, very convinced he knew it would malfunction after each shot. I'm very convinced that he didn't use subsonic rounds, that he used regular full metal jacket rounds after looking at the casing and at the bullet that was on the crime scene. I'm very convinced that the silencer is what caused the lack of capability of this weapon to cycle a gun into the chamber. Now, after seeing everything, I'm very convinced that this individual was skilled with this particular weapon, but could he be the hater that trained himself up for this? You can go to a firearms range and train and train and train and get good enough to do what he did, which was essentially hit once, miss twice, because I count that round in the calf, somebody who's going up there and in anticipation, right? In excitement of the shot. We see it all the time, even with experienced shooters. And then it comes time for that bullet to break, for that trigger to break, and you dip just the slightest bit. So now instead of being in line with the torso, that bullet drops down and hits the calf. And then one miss. Law enforcement said he was only hit 2 times, yet there were 3 casings found, 3 fired bullets, assuming they got everything. I think that's about it, but I want to look because I need to head off to my conference. The writings on the casing. Just saw something on News Nation, said that I couldn't make that hit. I didn't get notification till this morning, and I was so bummed. They asked me to do that hit, but I wasn't available. So I'd be interested, and I should go back and see what expert they got. I don't know. Hopefully they got a firearms expert, because you can be a law enforcement expert. You can have been in the PDs for years, but remember, PDs get to shoot once a year unless you're on a SWAT tactical team. It's not like, as an example, the FBI, that we shoot every 3 months. And if you're a firearms instructor, you shoot all the time. If you're on the SWAT team, especially an enhanced team such as Houston, you shoot every single week, 8 hours a day. You're training on tactics and firearms. So hopefully they were able to get somebody that is skilled in terms of marksmanship and tactics. Let's see. Anything else? All right, everyone. Listen, I didn't want to, prolong this, but I just wanted to say I've seen a lot out there that I wasn't sure whether it was accurate. Definitely wanted to look into it and really sit down and spend, I don't want to say hours, but a long time slow-mowing, putting my camera on slow-mo, watching his actions. It is so clear he knew he had to rack the slide. So those, while they're malfunctions, they're not surprise malfunctions. It's only later, after those 3 rounds, those are surprise malfunctions where he's actually having to really tap, rack, bang, whatever you want to call it, to get those rounds out. He gets 3 out, you see. But it's also clear he wasn't able to make that last shot. I see him line up. I thought he was able to make it. Must have been a malfunction. Nevertheless, that's what I can see from this video. I'm sure there will be later video out that's even better. But this is what I see from my examination of the rounds, of the casings, and of the video. And I feel pretty confident in this analysis. So was he paid? He could have been paid. Was this a professional marksman? No. Did he have this well planned? Absolutely. How did he know to be there just minutes before? Did he surveil this? Did he have insider information? I think it's possible there's somebody else involved and he had insider information. Is he a hater? Like Crooks as an example, that made the shots at Trump, that, remember, he got up there, he got through law enforcement, through all the Secret Services failures, he was able to get up on that roof and he was able to fire. He killed 1 and hurt 2, hit 2. But again, not being a fully professional marksman, A good marksman, a sniper, a FBI trained sniper, or law enforcement trained sniper, Secret Service trained sniper, all these other stuff, they would have hit their mark. They would have hit their mark, barring some odd situation happening. But also, I believe in the crook situation with those local law enforcement officers trying to get up on that roof. I think they disturbed him and made him have to shoot way quicker than he planned. He was hoping to get set up, get fully balanced, get the sights on his target. And he did a pretty good job. But I think because he was rushed, he was unsuccessful. This person definitely, though, knew this gun, knew it would malfunction, and he trained for his mission. And by the way, he accomplished his mission. So in any event, I am definitely in prayer for the Thompson family. It is abhorrent that a citizen in our country can literally be gunned down, ambushed in this, I'll call it professional style manner. Again, this shooter walked away really calmly until he, picked up running. But this whole thing was done very calmly. So it was either playing this out and his skill, really honing that in to make this a successful hit, or he could have been hired. But this is no marksman. This is no sharpshooter. All right, everyone. Until next time, may justice be served. Thank you so much for tuning in.